Welcome, everyone. I've got Dustin Markowski here, and I'm going to, rather than try to do a bad job of introducing him and telling you about him, much rather that he tell you about himself. And so, welcome, and please let everyone know.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, my name is Dustin Markowski. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Power. We are a commercial solar EPC installer, if you will. So we help businesses get solar systems, battery, EV chargers, help them kind of look at how you decrease operational expenses and costs, especially when it's kind of germane to their business operations, and help them be able to kind of scale, grow margin, and get to the next level. So
Well,
yeah.
welcome, and thanks for taking the time today. So you have a very interesting entrepreneurial path. So I would love for you to share with everyone kind of what that looks like.
Yeah, I spent the first 20 years of my career in tech and got if we're kind of like working our way backwards, I got hoodwinked in the best possible way to leaving everything that I had built and learned and coming into construction about like 9 years ago. And it's been one of the most rewarding and exciting journeys I could have been on. So yeah, and it was because one of the people that worked in sales, she was like, you need to come work for me and on my team. And it was I wanted nothing to do with sales. I was like, yep, I'm good. I don't need that in my life. I'm happy. I'm happy doing accounting and everything that I was doing. And I like to be very organized. So accounting seems like it fit really, really well. And she's like, no, you need to come over here. She's like, this is what you're meant to do. So at some point I listened to her, and I start working in sales, and the rest is history. I tried to leave sales multiple times, and I never could. I loved it too much, and so that's where kind of my career started in in semiconductors 22 long ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, well, at least you know your thing. Like you found your thing, you found the right place for you. But listen, the right place for you is a combination of two things, right? It's sales and entrepreneurship, and the two obviously go together, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's exactly right. So, I spent a couple of different semiconductor companies in the first kind of 10 years of my career. At the end of that 10 years, I went back to my parents' company. And my dad was kind of, I think, done with his time. Like he was, I think, I don't know, he just put so many years into it. He was, and so I started at, even though I was running sales, I started basically running the company for a large portion of that. And it was extremely stressful. I don't know. I don't know if I would say that I enjoyed it at the time, but like I learned so much. And when that time was done, when I looked around, 2007, and looked around, and was like, "There's no semiconductor business here in Silicon Valley," which is it's funny looking back because now another 20 years later, and that's all. We got Nvidia and we got AI, and it's revolutionizing it again. So we're kind of back to where we started in a lot of ways. But I looked, there wasn't any here, and I said, I think I think software is kind of like the next place I need to go. And I found a couple of guys that had started this business. I joined in. I was like, yeah, I can go sell. And so like my first prospecting list was the Yellow Pages, and I picked up the Yellow Pages and started just calling every business that I could
Amazing.
possibly think of, and trying to sell them SaaS software. Right. And everyone's like, what's this SaaS? What's SaaS? What is this? And it was like, oh, it's software as a service. Like you don't need to buy the software. You can just use it for when you need it. Right. And obviously over the last 20 years, you see how that's revolutionized. It's the only way you can get software nowadays.
Yep.
So
Pretty
yeah.
much.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, there's a company was called ShareVault. We did like documentation and data security and exchange and review and everything else. Now I think they just call them virtual data rooms. And I was coming up in this at the same time that like Box and Dropbox and were starting to come up as well. And like it was just a really great time to kind of be in that collaboration space
Mhm.
early on. So
I think that's awesome.
yeah, we went to Ascended after that. Like so 5 years I spent at ShareVault, and I was like the third person there. And so you have all of these ideas and dreams and everything that you're going to build and what you're going to do, but you ultimately have people that you have to work with too, and you have partners that you have to work with, and we have to all be on the same page. And sometimes moving from what you do in your core business and moving out of that, it can be really difficult. We had built this business starting in 2007. with no money. And over the course of those 5 years, we've, I don't know, grown probably somewhere to like $8 million in revenue. And we'd never gotten funding because started this business, or I started working for them at least, and within like 3 months, Lehman Brothers shut down, the whole financial, like everything collapsed, right? And we're like, okay, great. What are we going to do? And turns out we were at the right place at the right time. Like everybody was looking to sell their business, and we helped facilitate that. And it was too costly to do a physical data room. And so this was like the cheap alternative. So it ended up being like the right move at the right time. But as you come out of that, like document collaboration was really like the thing you wanted, like the thing that you wanted to be in. But how do you sacrifice the business you've built for the direction you want to go? And it was a really, really difficult thing. So getting us to move out of where you're kind of, people are paying you $1 for every digital page that's in their room, and getting them to paying like, $20 a user on a continued basis, like, is a really hard unit economics transformation to take and to think through. So really, we ultimately didn't do it is the answer.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
cannibalizing your own business for what may be a better long-term model, but like in the short term, it's got to be unbelievable, like
Yeah.
unbelievable difference in the very near term. But
And when you do it bootstrapped, you're not resting, you don't have anything to kind of say, okay, well, we have a way of making sure that we're going to be fine to get us through the term. And so, yeah, that makes it extremely difficult at that point.
okay, wow.
So
So let's jump forward to where you are now, because I think we'll go back to you. You've got a ton of experience that we can leverage. So with Power, who's the main customer? Like who are you going after every day?
So we essentially have two customers.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the customer who actually has the solar system installed on their building.
Yep.
It's a lot of businesses who own their own property and they're operating out of their own facilities.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other applications. There's people that are tenants in lease, and they get their property owners and their landlords to agree to sign off on doing projects like this. But the vast majority of them, they own their own property. And these are folks that, that are really looking at the margins in their business, seeing how the world has been changing and shifting over the last 10 years, electricity costs skyrocketing, going through the roof. And they're figuring out like, hey, I need a more predictable, better way of being able to scale our operations. So where it makes the most sense, you see it a lot in the manufacturing, you see it a lot in like cold storage, but places where they have a lot of energy use, and it's part of what they do in their business, right? It's directly related. So if their business scales up, their energy use scales up as well. And it makes a ton of sense for those folks.
So you're going in and installing, I say like installing on the actual physical location where they're operating, and then that helps to dramatically lower or eliminate their costs, right? They're not eliminate their costs, sorry, offset the difference and be the source of energy that they're looking for going forward. Is that sort of the way?
Yeah. So the way I like to think about it is it takes something that is quasi-known and makes it much more certain. And so we now have a cost that is budgetable. We know exactly what the cost is. It can be spread out over 25 or 30 years, whatever kind of that lifetime of that system is. And so when you kind of look at the unit economics that way, you start to bring your energy cost to 25% or lower, of what you typically see.
Okay.
Then all future increases you're kind of shielded from, at least to some extent, which is great. Yeah.
So what was so tell me the moment that you kind of, hey, we have something here. This is a big thing. Let's go.
That took us, 3 years or so to figure out. So the first business I started in solar, started with a friend of mine. It was residential. Within 2 years, we did like $120 million in 2019. It was phenomenal. Yeah. And at the end of that, I probably put, $2.25 million of my own money, all of my time, and to get to this place. And at the end of that year, we just had a phenomenal time. I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm gonna get my first payout. I was really excited. I got a bill from like my best friend and business partner, which is just another lesson on, always get everything in writing. It doesn't matter how well you trust the person going into a relationship. But I got a bill, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, it's not worth fighting. So I said, I've done it once. Let's go start another business. So we start this business, and we're gonna just we're going to repeat. We're just going to do the same thing we did before. And like 5 days later, like the world shuts down. Right. And going, sending people into 5 homes a day, every single day is not going to work anymore. And so we tried like messing with the model. We had some marginal success, but never like the same level of success that we had before. And so we looked at it and said, okay, well, what was it that we can do? So we just tried all different kinds of models. The thing that worked the best is we had a couple of commercial projects that we wanted to get done. And as a sales and marketing organization, like we're looking for someone to go fulfill it, to go install it. And the folks on the residential side in solar, people all day will do this all day long, right? They'll go and install your projects for you. This is what it costs. You get paid the difference. And so it's a very easy business to go grow and scale when you're a sales org. It doesn't exist on the commercial side. And so all the commercial businesses are like, yeah, give me your lead. We'll go sell it for you. We'll just, we'll pay you some nominal fee for the referral. And we're like, no, this is what I do. I've spent 20 something years selling to businesses. I know how to sell to businesses. I don't want to give that up to somebody else. And so we looked around and we said, it doesn't, let's just go create it. And so was like slowly over time, we got connected with all of different lenders in this space. We started, looking at subcontractors to go install. And so we kind of became a general contractor ourselves. And then eventually we started doing installation. So we basically started slowly vertically integrating and creating this. That was kind of like the big tipping point where we got something and it's working well. And the moment where it kind of just skyrocketed and took off was when we said, I bet you there's a bunch of other sales orgs out there that would love to have the same thing. And so we started opening it up to everybody else. And that's really when the business took off.
Wait, so keep going. What do you mean when you say you opened it up to everybody else?
So the other thousands of sales organizations that out there like us from, 6 years ago that were selling residential systems, going door to door, helping people, get solar, a lot of them had stumbled across people who owned businesses, had projects. They wanted to do commercial projects, but didn't really have a great place to go take them. How do I get it done? And so we created a turnkey solution for that. So you could come and say, you have a prospect. Not only are we going to help you go install this and make this thing happen, bring it to market, we'll actually help you sell. And so we said, listen, we'll jump in. You know how to sell really good to customers, so you can know how to talk to people. We're going to give you a structure and a framework how to actually sell to businesses predictably and get them sold.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a big thing that we've seen is that a typical commercial sale for most folks would take between 18 to 24 months to close from beginning to end on the sales side. We got that down to like under 6 months.
Wow.
For our partners.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So that kind of change in sales cycle now really changes somebody's business.
Okay. So wow, that's pretty amazing. Okay. So what I wanted to know, so sounds like you've hit a hyper growth a bunch of times or significant growth a bunch of times. When you've been scaling, what is the stuff that you found to be hard or harder than you expected it to be? Like what things have come up that have, so it's funny because some things are going, but there's obviously things that have been harder than you expected or unexpected. What kind of stuff, whether it's this business or in the past, anything that you can point to?
So one of the things I kind of mentioned in that first software business is shifting your kind of business focus. Say, okay, like this is the business we've built, but we think that this is the future over here. And how do you make that transition? And are you willing to risk all of what you built for the next thing? And I think that's been a true tenet in almost every single business I've ever been in, is there has been that magic point at some point. And some businesses have managed it and have managed to actually succeed and do it, and others have not. And I will say that the vast majority of businesses I've worked in, been on the board for, have not navigated that well. And it is a hard, difficult thing to do. I mean, in our own business, switching from residential, going to commercial, that only completely almost bankrupted us and took us out.
Yeah. Well, people use the term pivot. I think sometimes pivot is right. Sometimes pivot is harsh. But once again, it's like we're doing the same thing. Maybe we're doing it for a different group or we're doing it a different way, which is different, but it's not the complete pivot. Like we're in a completely different business, unrelated to where we were before.
Sometimes I think pivot is a marketing term too. It's a word that we use to like, hey, everybody, everything's okay. we're just going to pivot. Like, we're already doing this. We're just going to turn a little bit.
Okay.
And sometimes you're like, yeah, that pivot means you're ripping the foundation up and having to re-pour concrete. You know what I mean? Because the whole business shifts and changes. And sometimes we don't know. And sometimes we kind of find out in the middle of it. And sometimes you do know ahead of time. But I think it's one of those things where we're like, hey guys, the ship's fine. We're good. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, well, no, look, and look, and it brings me, it's interesting because you talk about it and that perception of what does it look like? To me, the big part of that is how aligned is everybody on your team? So is everybody in the same place? How, and anybody else who's involved, if there's investors involved and others who are involved. So in terms of like, even in terms of running your business today, like when you're running it and you're growing and you're adding stuff and you talked about gradually vertically integrating. How were the conversations? How was the work through the leadership team to kind of get everybody, make sure everyone's completely aligned and bought into we're evolving? And here's how.
It's difficult, especially when you're growing, because I think you'll find that there's a lot of people that are really great to have on board in the early days. The people they're just very committed, very loyal, will kind of see you through everything and anything. But the moment that other voices come in and and it feels like, wait, that's not how I do things. This is, I don't have, they don't feel like they have the same control or the same influence that they've always had. It starts to get really interesting because those folks, it shakes up their world. And so it can be difficult. So what I've always done is, one is try to see, those things as early as you possibly can, and write these things down. And start and use that and refine over and over and over again what that plan is, because the more times you go through it, like the more refined it becomes. It's like the easier it is to get people on board, right? And so I've always started with having, like, as if I'm having a brainstorm session with all of my key leaders, like, what if we did this one day? What if this is the direction we're like, or what do you like? I think I see the market going this direction. Like, what do you think about it? And then we'll talk through those things. And it's, in a lot of ways, it really is my ability to refine it. Like, I'm getting ideas, I'm hearing their feedback, and then going, okay, well, cool. How do we address that objection? And I'm going through it and kind of like refining that business idea over and over and over again. I'll do that 10, 20, 30 times, as many times as you possibly can. Until, the nice thing is when I say, hey, this is the plan, this is what we're going to do, the idea isn't new to anybody. It's almost like, oh yeah, this is that like fond thing that we've been discussing and talking about for a long, and then getting it on paper is like, I mean, obviously like for yourself, but then you have to formalize it for the team, because if you put it on paper, it's when things become real and people go, okay, I now know what my focus is. And I think that's always key. We tend to talk through things, especially when we're small. We tend to talk through so many different things, and then we carry like 2% of them. So the more you can formalize things, I think that it just really helps people to focus and get on the same page.
So, okay. So, no, that's great. And I think I was going to say, are there things that you wish you had done differently in this business? I mean, the get everything in writing, I got that from the past, right? That's a clear learning. You've got it. You're not going to forget that one. In your own business, like if you look back even the last 12 months, is there anything that you wish you had done differently that you think would have set you up even better than where you are today?
I'm sure that there is.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I don't dwell too much on it. And for the main reason of, every obstacle you get is, I truly believe this, is your stepping stone to the next place you're going to go. And so if I don't have the sales partner who sued me and almost bankrupted our business 3 years ago, we wouldn't have the business that we had today. Right. And like, if I hadn't had the partner who sent me the bill at the end of our relationship, I would have never built this business. And so like every obstacle has always been the thing that's gone, okay, cool. What do I have? What can we do? How do we make an impact from here? Right. Mm-hmm. And so, a theme that kind of taken with me my entire career, and this is like one of my tenets, is there's only one difference between a loser and a winner. And that is where they define to end their story. Because every winner has had multiple times at the bottom, and they just said, I'm just not, this is okay. This is the stepping stone to the next thing. It's, this is the motivation to keep moving. And so now I know where I need to grow. This is how I'm going to expand and get better. That's really the only difference. Is the loser says, I can't do it. I'm done, and they quit. And the winner says, I'm not going to give up until I get to where I know I need to be.
I love it. I think that's fantastic advice for us to close that up on, because I think that was great and a great way to think about where you're at. Obviously, a winner yourself. So this is like, it's good that you're sharing that advice with others. All right. So, Dustin, do me a favor, please let everybody know who's listening, watching, how can they reach you, find you, stuff that you're doing.
Yeah. So I mentioned we have 2 customers. The other customer is all of our sales organizations and partners. And so most of those folks, you can find me. My handle is the official Duddy at every possible place that you can. Duddy. It's a nickname that I was given by my siblings growing up. They couldn't say Dustin. Duddy was my nickname. But the official Duddy, that's where you can find me. And our website for our business is power.solar.
Amazing. All right. Well, Duddy, I really appreciate your time, everything, the thoughts, the ideas, and just sharing and with everybody. That was great. Really, really enjoyed it. So thank you so much. And to everybody who's watching and listening, thanks. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.